There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes that women don't confuse him because they're complicated, but because he never learned to observe without attachment, to feel without falling, to stand still while the world tempts him to chase shadows. Most men spend their lives misreading signals, projecting fantasies, mistaking temporary warmth for permanent devotion, and confusing simple human nature with destiny. Tonight, you learn to see clearly. When she pulls away suddenly, there is a precise moment in a man's life when he realizes that the most confusing thing about women is not their emotions, but their distance. The sudden quiet, the shift in energy that happens without warning, without explanation, without even the courtesy of a final look. One day she is warm, open, laughing at things that aren't even funny. And the next day she is cold, short, distracted, almost as if someone reached inside her heart and switched off the light. Most men panic in that moment. They feel the urge to chase, to demand answers, to cling to whatever version of her they remember from yesterday. But that reaction, that anxious need to regain control, is exactly why they misread what the silence truly means. Because a woman pulling away isn't always rejection. In fact, sometimes it has nothing to do with you at all. Sometimes it's a test, not the childish kind, but the deep, unconscious test her heart performs to see if you're a man who collapses under pressure, or a man who can keep his center, even when the world around him shifts. Women will never admit this, not because they are manipulative, but because they don't consciously plan it. It happens instinctively, like a reflex born from centuries of survival, a silent measurement of your emotional stamina, your patience, your strength, and sometimes she pulls away because she's afraid. Fear in a woman doesn't always look like shivering or crying. It often looks like withdrawal, like hesitation, like suddenly treating you with the distance she once reserved for strangers. When she starts to care more than she expected, when the connection begins to matter, when she feels vulnerable in ways she can't articulate, she steps back, not to punish you, but to protect herself from the possibility of being hurt by you. Men misread this as indifference, as disrespect, as a cold dismissal of everything shared. But most women don't know how to say, "I care about you more than I intended, and now I don't know what to do with the emotions suffocating me." And then there are times, the most heartbreaking ones, when she pulls away because she is trying to protect herself from loving you too quickly, too deeply, too blindly. Many women fear their own intensity. They fear the gravity of their feelings. So they retreat, hoping distance will dilute the emotions that terrify them. But here is the truth. Most men never learn. The way you respond to her distance reveals more about you than any words you could ever say. A man who panics, begs, accuses, or interrogates her exposes his insecurity. He proves that her distance has power over him, that her emotional tides dictate his stability. A Stoic man is different. He does not chase Bar because he is not afraid of losing what was never truly his. He does not interrogate Bar because he knows that forced clarity is fake clarity. And he does not dramatize Br because he understands that a woman's emotional rhythm Br moves like the moon. Bar's subtle, shifting, cyclical Bar, and never wrong. A grounded man simply steps back Bar and lets space reveal the truth, because space always does. If she returns with softness, Bar if her tone warms again, Bar if her energy realigns, if her heart opens even a little, Bar then she values you. It means she left to think, Bar to feel, Bar to breathe Bar, and in that silence, Bar she realized she didn't want to lose what she had with you. But if she drifts farther and farther away, Bar if her absence becomes a habit, Bar if her warmth collapses into permanent cold, Br then she was never meant to stay. She wasn't pulling away to test, Br or protect herself, Br or gain clarity. She was pulling away to leave. And here is the part most men never understand. For either outcome is good. Either truth serves you. A woman who returns chooses you. A woman who leaves frees you. Bar in both cases, Bar your peace remains untouched, because a Stoic man never ties his worth to her presence Bar nor his identity to her attention. He knows that people come and go, Bar energies shift, Bar hearts change, Bar and connections dissolve. But a man who knows himself Bar remains unshaken. Women will always pull away at times. BR for fear, BR for clarity, YR for reasons they don't fully comprehend. Your job is not to decode every heartbeat, bar, but to remain the same man, BR still, centered, grounded, bar, with or without her closeness. Because when you master the art of standing calm in the face of her distance, you stop misreading women and start mastering yourself. When she gets emotional without reason, there are few moments more confusing to a man than when a woman becomes emotional without warning. No argument, no trigger, no visible reason, just a sudden shift from calm to overwhelmed, from composed to trembling, from steady to storming inside her own heart. Men, wired to analyze, immediately begin searching for logic, scanning for errors, replaying conversations, trying to locate the exact point where something must have gone wrong. But the truth is simpler, and at the same time infinitely deeper. Men search for logic. Women search for expression. Where a man speaks to solve, a woman speaks to release. Where a man hides to process, a woman reaches out to feel seen. Where a man compartmentalizes emotions into tidy boxes, a woman experiences them like weather, shifting, unpredictable, sometimes intense, yet always passing. Most men misread her emotional storms as chaos, as dramatics, as instability, but in reality, it is often something far more meaningful. It's trust. A woman does not unravel in front of a man she does not feel safe with. She does not break down, or lose her composure, or tremble in vulnerability in the presence of someone she fears will judge her. Her emotional intensity is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of closeness. It is the unspoken confession that says, I trust you enough to show you the parts of me the world doesn't deserve to see. Because a woman spends most of her life being strong in silence, or smiling when she's hurting, BR apologizing when she's overwhelmed, BR and carrying burdens she never complains about. So when she finally lets those barriers fall, BR when she cries without a clear reason, BR when her voice cracks over something small, BR when she gets upset at the slightest shift in tone, BR it is not the moment to analyze her. It is the moment you understand her. BR. But this is exactly where many men fail. They take her emotional release personally. They think her tears are about them. They assume her tone is an attack. They hear her overwhelm as blame. And because men are raised to fix problems, they rush to offer solutions, bar logic, bar advice, bar or worse, BR they shut down. They retreat, thinking her storm will disappear if they become quiet enough, cold enough, distant enough. But a man who distances himself from her emotions teaches her one thing, I am not your safe place. A masculine man, a grounded man, a stoic man, BR responds differently. He doesn't absorb her emotion. BR he anchors her through it. He remains unmoved by the storm, not out of indifference, but out of strength. He lets her speak without interrupting. He lets her cry without rushing her. He lets her unravel without trying to tape her back together before she's ready. He stands still, calm as a midnight sea, carrying the weight of the moment with a quiet power that tells her, I'm here, you're safe, let it out. A man like this understands something most will never learn. When a woman gets emotional for no reason, the reason exists. It's just buried deeper than the moment. Maybe she's been holding in stress. Maybe she's afraid of losing you. Maybe she feels pressure from life she hasn't voiced. Maybe she's battling her own insecurities, fears, or memories that came back without warning. Or maybe she doesn't know why. And that's okay too. Because emotions aren't always logical. They aren't supposed to be. They are meant to be felt, BR released, BR and moved through. BR not dissected like an equation. BR a stoic man becomes her balance. He listens more than he explains. He observes more than he reacts. He understands that her emotions are like tides, natural, flowing, rising, falling. He knows that storms don't need to be stopped, they need to be weathered. And here's the truth most men never realize. When you remain composed during her emotional chaos, you teach her trust. You teach her security. You teach her that her emotions are not too much, that she is not difficult, that she is not a burden, that she is allowed to feel. In that space, BR in that quiet masculine steadiness, a woman finds something deeper than comfort. She finds safety. She finds peace. She finds home. BR. Because at the core of every feminine emotional wave burr is a simple desire, or to be held without being fixed, or seen without being judged, or heard without being silenced. And the man who can offer that, who stands tall as her storm passes through him without shaking his foundations, possesses a power few men ever master. He doesn't tame her emotions, he doesn't control them. He doesn't avoid them, he outlasts them. He remains the calm in the chaos, the stillness in her storm, the strength she didn't know she needed until the moment she broke. And that is the essence of masculine presence. When she complains about something small, there are moments in a relationship that seem insignificant at first glance, tiny sparks that most men brush off, small remarks made in passing, minor complaints about something so trivial that a man barely remembers it 5 minutes later. She complains that you didn't notice her new haircut. She mentions that you forgot to reply to a message. She gets bothered that you didn't sit beside her when you walked into the room. She points out that you don't talk the way you used to. Little things, tiny things, almost nothing. And because they sound small, most men assume they are small. They shrug it off, laugh it off, ignore it, or worse. They argue back, trying to win a debate that never needed to happen. But a woman complaining about the little things is rarely about the little things. A wise man knows that the feminine doesn't express issues at the exact level they're felt. Her emotions do not speak in straight lines. They speak in symbols, in hints, in echoes of deeper needs she hasn't voiced yet. Most men hear nagging, but a wise man hears a warning, a quiet alarm, a trembling in the foundation, a shift in the emotional climate of the relationship. She isn't telling you the problem. She's telling you the direction. She's a compass, not a complaint. She's revealing the areas where her heart is slowly dimming, because it doesn't feel seen, heard, or appreciated. A woman rarely explodes without first whispering, and those whispers are the small complaints men overlook. When she says, you never ask me how my day was, she's really saying, I don't feel emotionally connected to you anymore. When she says, you didn't remember what I told you yesterday, she means, you don't pay attention to the pieces of me I offer you. When she says, you don't spend time with me, she means, I'm starting to feel alone next to you. And when she says, it feels like you don't care, she means, I'm scared, I'm losing you. And I don't know how to say it without sounding weak. Most men react to the words, but a wise man listens to the meaning. He doesn't get defensive. He doesn't fire back with logic or excuses. He doesn't tell her she's overreacting or belittle the emotional intelligence behind her sensitivity. A real man doesn't react. He listens. He decodes. He sees the emotional landscape beneath the surface. He understands that women communicate emotionally, not literally. He responds with presence rather than pride. Instead of arguing, he asks, what are you really feeling underneath this? Instead of shutting down, he stays open. Instead of turning cold, he draws closer. Instead of dismissing her words, he reads her tone, her pauses, her silence between the sentences. He knows that small resentments, when ignored, grow into big distances, that emotional cracks become emotional walls, that tiny hurts, unaddressed, turn into months of suppressed frustration until one day, the woman he loves looks at him with eyes that have already given up. Because relationships don't fall apart from one big mistake. They decay slowly, quietly, through all the small things a man refused to understand. A masculine man, a grounded, emotionally intelligent man, treats her small complaints as early signals, as chances to repair, to reconnect, to realign. He doesn't judge her for expressing her feelings. He appreciates her for not going silent. Because silence is far more dangerous than complaints. A complaining woman still has hope. A silent woman has already checked out emotionally. Men misunderstand this. They think peace means no conflict. But peace in a relationship comes from addressing the conflict early. When it shows up as something small, a mature man knows that a woman's small complaints are her way of keeping the bond alive, trying to steer the relationship back into warmth, trying to preserve the closeness. before it slips into distance. So when she complains, he doesn't feel attacked. He feels alerted, aware, awake, present. Because a woman's heart doesn't break all at once. It breaks piece by piece, exactly in the places where she once complained, and he didn't listen. And the man who understands this, the man who sees the deeper truth behind her small words, becomes the man who keeps love alive, long after others let it die. That man is rare. That man is powerful. That man is feared by weaknesses and respected by women everywhere, because he understands one sacred truth: the small things are never small. When she shows jealousy, jealousy isn't always toxicity. Sometimes it's desire disguised as fear. Men misread it as clinginess, but often it's her unspoken way of saying, "I don't want to lose what I see in you." A grounded man doesn't exploit it, nor does he run from it. He reassures with actions, not promises. He stays centered, letting her know she has his loyalty, but not his leash. 5. When she becomes too nice all of a sudden, most men get excited when a woman becomes extra sweet, but they never question why. Sometimes a shift in kindness isn't affection, it's closure, a final attempt to leave peacefully, with dignity, before she detaches completely. Other times it's admiration, her way of softening for the man who stays composed. A Stoic man observes the shift, not the sweetness. He reads patterns, not moments.